The most fun story of the day in the media, of course, is that Turning Point USA, led by Charlie Kirk, sent a cease and desist to The View and obtained essentially an on-air apology. That is because Joy Behar went on The View, right? One of the least intelligent people in American politics. Joy Behar went on The View, which is a repository of nearly all human stupidity in one room, and compared TPUSA to neo-Nazis based on the fact that a bunch of neo-Nazis stood outside the TPUSA convention and trolled TPUSA, which they do at nearly every event. The white nationalists like to show up at TPUSA and they like to harass people outside TPUSA. I mean, this literally happened to me. I spoke at a TPUSA event maybe 3 years ago, and white supremacists stood outside and harassed me and my family as I was walking with my children. That wasn't because of TPUSA, which had invited me to speak. So not quite the same thing. Here was Joy Behar being her usual idiotic self.
There was this Turning Point conference with all the smoke. What are they smoking something down there? Or it's like, whatever. Anyway, they were out there. Neo-Nazis were in the front of the conference with anti-Semitic slurs and, the Nazi swastika and a picture of a so-called Jewish person with exaggerated features, just like Goebbels did in during the Third Reich. It's the same thing, right out of that same playbook. Okay, and DeSantis did not say anything about it. Nothing. So it's his his rendition of good people on both sides.
No, it 100% is not Ron DeSantis. Fan of the neo-Nazis? No. I've spoken at campaign events for Governor DeSantis because it's my home state. No. Governor DeSantis routinely brags about how the state of Florida is the #1 incoming state for Orthodox Jews. He's one of the most philo-Semitic people I've ever met in my entire life. It's an absurdity piled on top of an absurdity. And then members of The View went on to essentially label TPUSA a neo-Nazi convention. Well, this prompted the TPUSA founders to send a cease and desist to the hosts of The View. And that forced The View to basically go ahead and apologize. By the way, my favorite thing is that Whoopi Goldberg actually said on The View, quote, "You let them in. You knew what they were." And that is not true. I mean, they were outside protesters. TPUSA did not let them in. And then Goldberg said, "My point was metaphorical." No, your point was not. First of all, Whoopi, stop saying things about Nazis. Just stop it. Again, Whoopi Goldberg is the person. I'm never going to get over the fact that this person is on air still after saying on national TV that Hitler was not a racist because the Jews were white. I'm never going to get over that. That is such an unbelievably anti-Semitic statement. Because the idea is, of course, that if you are Jewish, then you are a member of the sort of white majority. And therefore, if you are targeted by white supremacists, that's a white-on-white attack. You're not part of the intersectional coalition. It's just amazing. She got away with that. So her spouting off about who lets the Nazis in, last I checked, TPUSA wasn't defending Hitler as a non-racist. Whoopi. But Whoopi said this sort of thing. And a cease and desist was sent. We'll get to more on this in just 1 second. First, you've heard me debunk a bunch of topics like communism, JFK conspiracies, but get ready because I'm about to debunk store-bought meat. Grocery stores and leftists will tell you to buy the grass-fed, super omega, morally superior, equity-bringing, live your truth beef. They push the lie that those labels actually mean anything. They actually don't mean anything. That meat is probably imported from overseas. Here is the label that actually matters. 100% American meat. And Good Ranchers will make you the best American meat there is on planet Earth. Good Ranchers, only sources from farms and ranches right here in the United States. Maybe you thought that cooking a steak over a fire couldn't get any more American, but Good Ranchers makes it happen. I'm just telling you, their steaks are fantastic. They got me a kosher steak. We grilled it on a kosher barbecue. It was unbelievable. Use my code BEN to get $30 off your box of steakhouse quality cuts plus free shipping. Change the way you think about meat and the way you buy it. Your purchase not only strengthens American farms, but also supports what we do here at the Daily Wire. Go to goodranchers.com/Ben today. Debunk store-bought meat with me. Again, head on over to goodranchers.com/Ben today to get started. Apparently, according to the lawyers for TPUSA, they said The View hosts intentionally and falsely associated TPUSA with neo-Nazi protesters outside the event, placing TPUSA in denigrating and false light and negatively impacting its public perception. Such action will not be tolerated. Specifically, The View host insidiously and cavalierly stated TPUSA let neo-Nazis in to its SIS event, metaphorically embraced them, and that neo-Nazis were in the mix of people. The assertion that TPUSA is complicit or affiliated in any way with neo-Nazi protesters outside the event is outlandish, false, defamatory, and disgraceful. And that's, of course, true. And that prompted not Whoopi, not Joy, but Sarah Haynes to have to issue an apology on their behalf on The View yesterday. So here it was.
So on Monday, we talked about the fact that there were openly neo-Nazi demonstrators outside the Florida Student Action Summit of the Turning Point USA group. We want to make clear that these demonstrators were gathered outside the event and that they were not invited or endorsed by Turning Point USA. A Turning Point USA spokesman said the group, quote, 100% condemns those ideologies, and said Turning Point USA security tried to remove the neo-Nazis from the area but could not because they were on public property. Also, Turning Point USA wanted us to clarify that this was a Turning Point USA summit and not a Republican Party event. So we apologize for anything we said that may have been unclear on these points.
But they still invited Matt Gaetz, though, I would just like to know.
These are the people that you should trust in the media. You should also trust people like Yamisha Alcindor, who, again, is still a White House correspondent for, I believe, PBS. So she gets some taxpayer dollars, who says that it is transphobic to say that men are competing in women's sports if men are competing in women's sports. Here is Yamisha Alcindor, again, promoting false information.
Cultural issues were very popular in that room. Former President Trump went on a long rant about transgender Americans, and he used transphobic language. In particular, he was talking about transgender women competing in sports and said that they were men trying to compete against women, which, of course, is not the right way to talk about that issue.
Actually, that's exactly the right way to talk about that issue. By the way, it is amazing how the media have fully embraced all the lies that the left tells about everything, from social policy to medicine to everything. We are now learning, according to Brandon Dre over at Daily Wire, puberty blockers, known as gonadotropin-releasing hormone substances, received a warning from the FDA officials earlier this month, saying the drug could cause brain swelling, loss of vision, and serious risks for children injecting the hormone. Officials said a plausible association between using puberty blockers and pseudotumor cerebri, which displays symptoms similar to a brain tumor, was identified in 6 young girls between the ages of 5 and 12. 5 were undergoing treatment for central precocious puberty, 1 for transgender care. FDA officials report transgender care. The onset of pseudotumor cerebri symptoms range from 3 to 240 days after the agonist initiation. Symptoms included visual disturbances, headaches, and vomiting. Other effects agonists caused were an increase in blood pressure, brain swelling, and abducens neuropathy. A spokesperson for the FDA told Formulary Watch the cases were considered clinically serious and determined that a warning should be added to all GnRH agonist products approved for pediatric patients. But you've been told it's all reversible, it's totally fine, there's no problem with all this, and the media continue to repeat those lies. And in fact, if you point out that boys and girls are different and that injecting kids full of hormones is a very, very bad idea, then they will ban you from social media. And they'll throw you off of YouTube if you say these sorts of things clearly and concisely. They'll ban Jordan Peterson from Twitter. He's still banned from Twitter for mentioning that men cannot be women and women cannot be men. So why do people not trust the media? Well, this would be the reason that people do not trust the media. We're in a battle for the culture and for our values. Like and subscribe to help keep our videos on the front line of the fight and top of your feed.